You play racist games, you win stupid prizes. Tiffany and Hannah just discovered that with this recent double eviction, which saw both women evicted. They had plenty of opportunity to, play a real game not based on race, but Hannah and Tiffany gladly betrayed and backstabbed their close allies. I mean, hell, in Hannah's case, Derek X could have been categorized as a POC because, as Julie Chen mentioned in one of her interviews defending the Cookout Alliance, she said this was a great thing because it was a POC alliance. But what Julie Chen conveniently left out, it wasn't just a person of color alliance, it was specifically a black alliance. And Derek X, a Chinese man, a Chinese person who has never won the game of Big Brother before, by the way, but Derek X was betrayed because he wasn't so called black. And Julie Chen failed to bring that up, even though she acted like she was pissed off at Aaron. But anyway, in the long run, she got what she deserved because she looked so lost and hurt when she was put on the block by Azza next to, I think, Derek F. And she just looked completely lost and so sad. And if you look at the reactions on Twitter, a lot of people are upset, threatening to quit watching the show after this horrendous double eviction. But I say once again, isn't this history? Aren't we supposed to be celebrating history? Why would people be so mad at history now? Since all throughout this season, the justification for this race-based alliance has all been about celebrating history. The first time ever for a black person to win Big Brother. It's similar to a cure for cancer or solving poverty. But anyway, no, they're not celebrating history. In fact, they are back to racially slurring members of the Cookout once again. I mean, I say back to, but they've never let up. They're constantly calling Xavier and Kyland coon. You have this one commenter, for example, saying, "Congratulations, Xavier will be the first black coon to win." And that was in response to Kyland using the power of veto on Xavier, which forced Azza to nominate Derek as the replacement nominee during her HOH. And then you have another commenter who said, Azza just handed over $750,000 to Captain Coon, and he gonna pay her dust as soon as they leave the house. This is why sometimes you can't root for everybody black. So now we have people regretting rooting for everybody black because it's not the proper black. It's not the black that they were rooting for. And it continues, the racial slurs. You have another person saying, I remember when we said Hannah and Tiff had a better chance at winning with Claire and DX in F4. Instead, I got called all types of coons. Look at the outcome, fools. And you have another comment by the same person, by the way, saying Xavier is ringleader coon. And I said that shit. And Kyland isn't any better from his SB obsession to the way he's thrown DX under the bus since day one. Like, fuck both of them. Oh boy. But this is the Big Brother diversity season. This is the season that all of the major podcasts of Big Brother are celebrating. Most of the alumni are celebrating. They're celebrating an environment where people are just freely hurling racial slurs and celebrating the racist alliance the entire season. And I can't think that this will get any better because it seems like all of these mainstream networks seem to be on the same page, like pushing this racial division and racial conflict while pretending that it's some sort of virtue. And again, when you look at these avatars, you have no way in telling whether these are actually black people behind the avatar. Even if they were black, it still would be inappropriate for another black person to use a racial slur. But it also just highlights that all of these woke white people who join up in marches and all that other bullshit, they're just as bigoted, if not more so bigoted and racist than the people they claim are the bigoted and racist ones. I mean, for example, we saw Melissa of Rob Has a Podcast go off and talking about how a black man's win is illegitimate because, again, they didn't get their Tiffany and Hannah final two. Because ultimately, that's what the cookout was about. It was about elevating the black females, who both, by the way, aren't necessarily black if you listen to them and look at their biology. I mean, Hannah Chada, she's half Indian, so I mean that counts, right? But also you had Tiffany, who would constantly talk about how fair-skinned she is, and constantly talk about her white lovers. You know, whitey number one, whitey number two. So while people go at Xavier over his admiration for Sarah Beth and go after Xavier for cuddling up with Whitney because they did attack him back then, and they attacked him for liking Alyssa. But again, they'll attack those guys, but they won't say shit about Tiffany and all of her white boyfriends that she talked about and referred to them as whitey number one and whitey number two. But, you know, as it stands right now, it looks like the best players from this not real season will end up at the end. I mean, there is one competition left. You can't count Ozza out. Hell, you can't even count Derek F out because he's been getting close recently. But if Xavier or Kyland manage to win this Final Four veto, because right now Xavier is the HOH, so really Kyland needs to win this Final Four veto. But if that's accomplished, then we'll at least scrape up some type of gameplay that's worthy to celebrate because of the competitions that they've won between the two. The Gentlemen, which is their final two name, by the way. But yeah, between the competitions they've won, the relationships that they've won, that they've had throughout the season, they are the best that you could hope for to be at the end. I mean, because again, we must constantly repeat the fact that Tiffany and Hannah were inferior players, especially in comparison to Xavier and Kyland. Because we all know if it wasn't for Xavier, or at least those who've paid attention to the feeds, we all know that Alyssa and Christian wanted Hannah out pre-jury. They had no interest in targeting Whitney initially because they thought they could use Whitney because they knew Whitney liked Xavier. And Whitney actually gave them targets. So they had no reason to want to target her. But it took Xavier convincing them away from Hannah. So Hannah wouldn't even be in this position to be sad during the second double eviction if it wasn't for Xavier. And then again, we know with Sarah Beth, it was another opportunity for the guys to fully play their game because they had a Final Four with their teammates. Well, not teammates, their girls, because I forgot Sarah Beth isn't on Kyland's team. But yeah, they had a Final Four, Kyland, Sarah Beth, Xavier and Alyssa, they could have went with that if they wanted to. Because they were so busy, concerned with the cookout and not betraying it. But it just goes to show you when you look on Twitter, no matter what, even though they stuck with it, they're still going to be slandered because they're males. I mean, they're even attacking the homosexual male in Derek F, which just goes to show once again, no black male, no matter their sexuality, should invest themselves in any of these woke movements because ultimately they're all about elevating the female, specifically these feminist asshole females. Because if you are a female that, I don't know, dare to love your father or truly care about your son or your husband or your brother, they'll attack you for defending men. But the toxic bitches on the Big Brother 23 Twitter right now, and they're just ranting and raving all types of sexist or misandrous and racist nonsense. And they think they're the good ones. That's the thing. They think they're good people doing this shit. And of course, you can find tweets where Andy Heron is trying to insert himself, saying that this was the most disappointing double eviction for fans since I took out Amanda and framed Alyssa. Like, dude, he's such a fucking shitty player, but he's a shitty person as well. Because he's trying to, I don't know, make people forget that he won the initial racist season and his top allies was Aaron, Gina Marie, and Amanda, all who said racist shit. And he laughed along and participated in a lot of that bullshit. Villainizing Candace, villainizing Howard. But lucky for him, the type of people who support people like that, they have a convenient short memory because, they don't remember any of that, even though the evidence is still out there and recorded. But yeah, he's trying to insert himself into this season. Him and Devon have just been full of tweets, cheerleading the cookout females. Because this cookout alliance, this racist alliance, was actually a feminist alliance. Because that was the goal, to elevate the females. And the sad fact is, even if Azah managed to win Final Four veto and then win herself to the end, they wouldn't even count her. Because they've been attacking Azah this entire season. Because Azah, for most of the season, hasn't gotten along with Tiffany. But again, this is the bullshit that you tolerate when you cheerlead shit like this. Because the fact of the matter is, every single season, you see the mostly female fan base on Big Brother Twitter. You see them constantly tweeting about the male house guests. Always calling the male house guests sexist, always calling them douchebags, but they have nothing to say about the females, and they have no self-awareness to acknowledge their own sexism directed towards males. And that's in large part due to the fact they don't even believe females can be sexist. It's sort of the same logic that they apply to race. Certain races of people can't be racist, and females can't be sexist. But this is the audience that CBS is catering to. And I quite honestly can't see it getting any better in the future. And it's just another reason to, cut the cord. because they are wokeifying every fucking television show. Every fucking movie, they're wokeifying it. Which is why Korean media with the K-pop stuff and Japanese media with the anime and manga is kicking mainstream American entertainment's asses. And it deserves it because they just keep offering this faux activist bullshit, which really just encourages bigotry. But anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing who will win this Final Four. After Xavier won the HOH, him and Derek F had a conversation about whether or not they would evict Kyland and go to the final three with Azah. Now, personally, I believe Xavier in this conversation was humoring Derek F because right now the veto hasn't been determined. And plus, he doesn't want to be in a position where he's advocating for Kyland too much. But I believe once Xavier or Kyland win this F4 veto, then we'll get the final decision, the real final decision, which I believe if Xavier has the choice, he wants to go to final three with the guys. Because going to final three with Derek F and Azah, puts him at high risk of being evicted in third place. Because he already saw that Azah was willing to nominate him. And I'm sure he's fully well aware that Derek F and Azah are closer to each other than they are to him. So it would be a stupid decision on his part to want to go to final three with Derek F and Azah. But we'll see when this final four veto winner is determined. Last thing, what about that jury segment when they all realized they were all sitting there due to their race, as Brittany, Sarah Beth, and Derek X realized together that the alliance consisted of all the 6 black people in the house. And they're doing it for a cause because Azah revealed that to one of the jury house members. And I just love seeing the awkward reactions on each of their faces. It's like, wow, we literally got evicted for race-based reasons. And on television, they're going to have to, suck it up and pretend to be okay with it. But in their hearts and minds, they can't be cool with such a thing because it's disrespectful and it's, really presumptuous on their part because that puts them in the position of, well, wow, I was a part of the obstacles of racist past house guests and they had to overcome me in order to achieve some sort of historical achievement, even though it's not that serious. I mean, you look up on Big Brother Twitter, they'll act like it's serious, but in reality, it's not. And it's not even that serious to them because, as I've stated throughout this video, they are really saying a lot of disrespectful and bigoted shit towards who they believe will win this game. And that's Xavier and Kyland. With Xavier being their favorite target, by the way. Even though he spent an entire season respecting women. But that's not enough. You got to sacrifice your life for them. In this game and in real life. Well, fuck that shit. I hope one of the guys win just to see these ratty ass bitches on Big Brother Twitter get even madder. Deal with it. I hope it happens.